Hello guys, welcome to my channel. Today I'll present you with the Yixuan build and team guide. Yixuan is a Rapture S-rank agent with Auric Ink element. Basically, it's ether damage. You might be wondering what's Rapture class. Effectively, they offer a mix of damage and survivability. They have their own stat called Sheer Force, which allows them to ignore defense. I'll also provide a quick summary of her gameplay. Basically, Rapture agents like Yixuan use adrenaline bar instead of energy. She will start with full adrenaline. There are several ways how to get her adrenaline, like perfect dodging or performing certain abilities within her kit. Basically, most of her damage is accumulated through X special attacks and her ultimate. She is a strong damage dealer that is on par with the Void Hunter according to the devs. Smile. She does effectively blend offensive and defensive capabilities within her own kit. She seems to have a lot of iframes as well. She also has two variations of her ultimate ability. One does cost decibel rating, meanwhile the other one will cost Auric Ink points, which you will generate by performing her attacks. Overall, Yixuan gameplay seems very strong, definitely an anniversary type of character. And now let's talk about her main stats. But before I talk about her main stats, I would like to let you know that a lot of you guys watch me are not subscribed. If you like to support this small channel, feel free to subscribe. It's completely free of charge. Smile. And now let's continue with the video. So for Yixuan main stats, as a Rapture unit, her stats are a bit different. Specifically, the pen ratio gets converted into sheer force and energy regen gets converted into adrenaline. This stuff happens outside of combat. Also, there is a sheer force attack conversion by 30%. With that out of the way, now let's talk about her drive disc main stats. For drive disc 4, you will want either critical rate or critical damage. This heavily depends on your crit ratio. You do want to get 1-to-2 ratio or as close as possible to it. As for drive disc 5, it's going to be either damage or HP percentage. Yes, Yixuan does scale off HP. That's why HP is also perfectly fine option. And lastly, drive disc 6, which is HP percentage. Now let's also quickly talk about her sub stats. It's going to be critical rate / critical damage into HP percentage, followed by attack percentage, and then into flat HP, and lastly, flat attack. From my understanding, flat pen stats are pretty much dead, useless stats on Yixuan. If this changes, or if flat pen stat also gets converted into sheer force, I will provide an update within the comment down below, the pinned comment that is. But overall, with Yixuan, as you can see, she's your typical attack type of character, except an HP scaler, and has this sheer force and adrenaline instead. Now let's talk about her drive disc options. Her best in slot is going to be Yunkui Tails. This is a new set that you cannot pre-farm, however you can craft it. This set at 2-piece bonus will provide 10% HP increase, but more importantly, her 4-piece set will increase critical rate up to 3 times, lasting for 15 seconds whenever you use X special attack, chain attack, or ultimate. And Yixuan is a heavy user of her X special attacks, so you will be able to stack this stuff relatively quickly. You'll be able to easily get this nice 12% critical rate boost. And also, when you have 3 stacks of this effect, sheer damage is increased by 10%. So this is pretty much best in slot go-to for Yixuan. I highly recommend you save your resources to craft it as much as possible on day 1 if you want to quickly get some good pieces for her. As for 2-piece options, quite straightforward. Something like Woodpecker Electro is gonna work great if you lack critical rate. If you're not lacking critical rate, you can easily go with Branch and Blade Song, which provides 16% critical damage. If you don't have either of these 2 sets available, you could also use something like Chaotic Metal, which does provide 10% ether damage bonus, which is still functional. But generally, I would recommend that you use whatever amongst these 2-piece sets you lack the most. Specifically, if you lack critical rate, go with Woodpecker Electro, but if you have enough, I would recommend highly to go with critical damage. But of course, if both of these sets you have like with really poor sub stats, and you have like, I don't know, a really good sub stat stats on your chaotic metal 2-piece set, you could use that as well, of course. But overall, the attack percentage stuff is pretty much cope for issue 1. You really want to get her dedicated set bonus. That's why there's not really any good other 4-piece set bonus for her. Of course, you can slap in and use something randomly in the meantime with good substats, but I highly recommend you just farm this new set and get it as soon as you can. Now let's talk about her V-engine options. As a Rapture agent, they have completely new V-engines. We'll begin first with her signature V-engine. The Birdcage is pretty much her best slot option, and it is very strong, supposedly a 30% plus increase compared to its free-to-play options. The base attack is 743, pretty much the same as Miyabi's. As for the advanced stat, is 30% HP. She does scale of HP, so this is very useful for her. As for the passive ability, it increases critical rate by 20%, and whenever she releases her X special attack, this character will gain the amplification effect, stacking up to 2 layers and lasting 15 seconds. Each layer of this buff will increase ether damage dealt by 8% and also increase ether sheer damage dealt by ultimate or X special attack by 10%, so meaning it's 16% and 20% increase. Also, at the start of the battle, you will start immediately with 2 stacks of this buff. So this V-engine is extremely strong, and if you do want to make your issue 1 strong, you can just get her with the V-engine. It's going to be quite powerful. However, there are some other A rank options. There is a paid option in form of the Battle Pass. The Battle Pass provides 594 base attack, an advanced stat of 25% HP. When activating chain attack or ultimate, the wearer gains 1 stack of enhancement effect. Each stack increases the wearer's shear by 80 points, stacking up to 3 layers, lasting 12 seconds. Each layer duration is calculated separately. This means that you could effectively use 2 chain attacks with issue 1, get 2 stacks, then 1 ultimate, and you'll have easily 3 stacks of this sheer buff. Do note that issue 1 has to perform the chain attack or ultimate to get these stacks, not just anybody in your team. This V-engine does get better with dupes. However, do know that this V-engine is not free. It does cost $10, and if you want to get dupes, it's going to be up to $50. It's not cheap. Then we have the free-to-play option, the only option that is. This V-engine does have also 594 base attack. However, the advanced stat this time around, it's 25% attack. Unfortunately, it does not have HP, which would be more beneficial for issue 1. As for the passive, whenever you activate X special attack with issue 1, she'll gain 16% critical damage boost for 12 seconds, and additionally, if target current HP is less than 50% of its maximum, the damage dealt by X special attack is increased by 20%. This damage boost increase is very good if you meet the requirements. Of course, you're not really gonna meet the requirements for this in Deadly Assault, because by the time the boss gets to that HP threshold, you're quite deep into the fight, so you're not gonna be able to take necessarily full advantage of this V-engine in Deadly Assault. However, it's gonna work great in something like Shiyu Defense, where enemies will certainly drop very quickly below 50%, so you'll get this nice X special attack damage boost, because issue 1 is very focused on X special attacks, and this will be useful in that regard. But I still wish this V-engine also worked better for Deadly Assault, but even with this free-to-play option, issue 1 will be perfectly fine on release. Now let's talk about team options, team compositions, where you can use your Rapture agents. But before I go over team options again, I want to remind you that defense, shred, debuff, and pen ratio buffs do not work on Rapture agents. Sheer Force stuff is pretty much a unique multiplier of its own that already ignores defense. Panda is pretty much the only agent that provides direct buff for Rapture agents with his Sheer Force buff, and of course he's currently best in slot for issue 1. Basically, ladies can't compete against Panda 2400 attack buff value of Sheer Force. The other options such as Caesar, Astra, and so on don't come close to the Panda. smile. But nevertheless, let's go over team options. We'll start with new player-friendly options. Effectively, it's going to be Panda plus Pulchra plus Yixuan. You can replace Pulchra if you don't have it with something like Coleda or even Lucy, but I personally would recommend to use Pulchra instead, like a stunner in general, because there is a new nice set bonus coming that stun units can take advantage of. This new stun set, effectively, if you equip it on a stunner character, will increase your critical damage up to 30% for your entire team, assuming you have enough critical rate on your stunner character. So just having a stunner in the team, if you can, does help a lot with a really nice buff from this new set bonus. You could also use Sokaku, but I don't think it's going to be a very smooth experience. It is an option if you really have nothing else available. Now let's talk about premium S rank options. On release, the go-to team is going to be Astra Yao plus Panda with Yixuan. Just as a reminder, Astra Yao also does provide damage bonus and crit damage boost, which is still pretty good for Yixuan, although that attack is not going to be that much sheer force as what Panda provides. It's still a good option. If you don't have Astra available or you're using her somewhere else, you can play it with Caesar, Lucy, and potentially Sokaku. Once again, if you truly don't have those other options available, you could also potentially cope with a stunner like Pulchra as well. Unfortunately, characters like Lycaon are not really going to work that well for Yixuan. What he provides, you're not going to really get that much out of Yixuan. But speaking of stunners, the future best in slot, by the looks of it, it's going to be Yufufu for Yixuan. So whenever Yufufu drops out, the best team is going to be Yufufu Panda with Yixuan, effectively replacing that Astra slot. So that's also one team you could go for if you're a newer player with lots of pulls. You probably could be able to pull both of these characters back to back. Now, I would also like to have a Panda section, as I like to call it, for his build, because I figured out there is no point to make a separate video for the Panda, because he's just good for Yixuan, and you'll definitely want to play him with your Yixuan. So for Panda, his main stats are going to effectively be all attack percentage. Drive D6 can also be energy regeneration if you're lacking energy, specifically if you don't have a V engine with energy, because he is a defense unit and the energy regen, or let's say the energy generation option, is very limited with his signature. His signature does provide nice energy, so you have a better uptime of his abilities. However, if you don't have his signature, you can use something else that provides like an advanced stat of attack or even energy regen if you're lacking energy. As for his set bonuses, you have realistically two good options. It's either gonna be Swing Jazz or Astral Voice, depending who is already holding Astral Voice in the team. So for example, if you play Panda with the stunner is probably going to be using the new strong stun set for the critical damage boost for your entire team, and then you would be kind of using Astral Voice on your Panda. But you already have, let's say, Astra in the team with Astral Voice, then you can easily use Swing Jazz on your Panda instead. As for 2-piece set bonus, it's either attack percentage or energy regen. Whatever you'll need more, just pick one of those two. Now I would also like to have a quick section for Yixuan Mindscapes. Is signature better than her M1? As of right now, yes, pretty much. Also do remember that V-Engine is technically cheaper to pull than a character dupe. The M1 itself is effectively, I would say, a quality of life change plus some damage increase. Her M2 is quite strong. It is a mini lighter type of effect. It does increase stun extension and more damage on top. It's your typical classic anniversary C2, E2 in other respective Hoyoverse games. M4, just more damage for her X special attack. Okay, cool. And M6, classic Unga Bunga, just like Miyabi's, I guess. If you wanna strengthen your issue 1 on release, I would just recommend going for her signature V engine instead. because the Rapture V-Engine options are very limited, and perhaps they might release some event Rapture engine down the line. But if you're not going for the Battle Pass, the signature V-Engine is going to be a quite good pickup. Of course, you could also try to get it on a rerun, because a character like Yixuan is probably going to get a rerun very quickly. And lastly, let's also talk about Bangboos, because the new Bangboo has a very interesting gimmick. Bellion might end up doing a lot of days accumulation plus a decent amount of damage. However, its additional ability requirements are quite interesting. It does require 2 Yonkai Summit agents for its additional ability. However, this requirement can be reduced to 1 Yonkai agent if you have 3 copies of this Bangboo. So I guess Bangboo power creep is real, and this Bellion guy seems quite decently good. If you do get dupes, you won't be forced to run double Yonkai Summit in the team to have its additional, and its additional is also quite significantly good because you'll end up doing more days accumulation and damage. Of course, if you don't have Bellion available, you can always use something like Snap. Snap does provide a pretty good damage boost for your team. However, do note that Snap does not provide any days accumulation or its own damage. But with Bangboos, I generally recommend picking up in this type of teams a Bangboo that does provide a lot of days accumulation so you can stun enemies faster. So yeah, this is pretty much it for this Yixuan build and team guide. If you have any questions or would like to add anything yourself, feel free to write it within the comments down below. Smile. And also, of course, if you like this video, don't forget to give it a like and all that stuff. And yeah, that's about it. I wish you a wonderful day and see you in the next video. Ciao.